Jasmine Carter grew up in a busy neighborhood on the south side of Chicago. Her mom worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table, and her dad fixed cars at the local garage. Even as a little girl, Jasmine showed she had a special spark. While other kids set up lemonade stands, 10-year-old Jasmine organized a whole team of children to run different food stalls at the block party, splitting the profits fairly and keeping perfect records in a little notebook her grandmother had given her. "That girl's going places," neighbors would say, watching her count coins and make change faster than most adults could. High school wasn't easy for Jasmine. The building was old, books were outdated, and some teachers had already given up. But Mrs. Wilson, her business studies teacher, saw something in Jasmine. She stayed late after school to help Jasmine study for college entrance exams and apply for scholarships. "You're brilliant with numbers and people," Mrs. Wilson told her. "Don't let anyone tell you what you can't achieve." The day the thick envelope arrived from State University, Jasmine's mom cried happy tears. They couldn't afford much, but thanks to scholarships and part-time jobs, Jasmine became the first person in her family to go to college. College life showed Jasmine how deep the divides in America really were. In her business classes, she was often the only black woman. When group projects came around, she sometimes noticed how people hesitated to choose her as a partner until they saw her grades. By junior year, classmates fought to work with her. After graduating with top honors, Jasmine took a job at a major financial firm. The hours were brutal. She'd arrive before sunrise and leave long after dark, working twice as hard as her colleagues to be taken seriously. "I need to prove myself," she'd explain to her mom during their Sunday phone calls, her voice tired but determined. Over the next few years, Jasmine watched as men who started after her got promoted faster. During one performance review, her boss said her style was too aggressive, the same approach he praised in her male colleagues as assertive leadership. That night, sitting in her small apartment, Jasmine made a decision. She'd start her own firm, one that would serve people often ignored by traditional banks. Starting Urban Wealth Financial Group wasn't easy. Jasmine used her savings and worked from her dining table for the first year. She focused on helping people from neighborhoods like the one she grew up in, folks who had good jobs and dreams, but felt intimidated by big banks. "Financial security isn't just for people who already have money," became her company motto. "It's for everyone willing to learn and plan." The first breakthrough came when Jasmine helped a local doctor refinance his practice, saving him thousands. He told other small business owners, who started calling Jasmine for advice. She hired her first employee, then another, and soon needed a real office. By her mid-30s, Urban Wealth had grown into something remarkable. The company had offices in 7 cities. Their client list included not just individual families, but community organizations, small businesses, and even some celebrities who appreciated Jasmine's straightforward approach to wealth management. Business magazines started featuring Jasmine's story. "The new face of finance," one headline read. She was invited to speak at conferences where, just a few years earlier, she couldn't even get a ticket to attend. Through it all, Jasmine stayed connected to her roots. Every month, she held free financial literacy workshops in communities like the one she grew up in. She created scholarship programs for young people who reminded her of herself. "Success means nothing if you climb up and pull the ladder up after you," she often said. "Real success is building elevators for others." Now, as CEO of a company worth millions, Jasmine had broken through countless barriers. Her company's latest achievement, a groundbreaking partnership with National Trust Bank, one of the oldest financial institutions in the country. The deal made headlines across the financial world and would bring better banking services to neighborhoods often overlooked. Little did Jasmine know that this partnership would soon put her face to face with the very discrimination she'd fought against her entire career. The deal with National Trust Bank didn't happen overnight. Jasmine first met with their executives over a year ago, when she noticed many of her clients struggled with the bank's outdated systems. Instead of just complaining, she put together a detailed proposal showing how both companies could benefit from working together. "They need our fresh approach, and we need their established reputation," Jasmine explained to her team during a late-night strategy session. They ordered pizza and spread papers across the conference table, planning their pitch down to the smallest detail. At first, the bank executives didn't take her seriously. During the initial meeting, the bank's vice president, Thomas Harrington, barely made eye contact with Jasmine, directing all his questions to her male colleagues instead. "I appreciate your team's input," he said, nodding to the men, "but we've been in business for over 100 years. We know our customers." Jasmine didn't get angry. She simply opened her laptop and showed them the numbers. Her company had surveyed thousands of people in communities the bank claimed to serve, but was actually losing customers in. The data told a clear story that couldn't be ignored. "Your bank is missing out on billions in potential business," she said calmly. "We can help you reach these communities, but only if you're willing to change how you operate." 3 meetings later, even the most stubborn bank executives had to admit Jasmine was right. The partnership agreement they eventually signed was groundbreaking. Urban Wealth would help National Trust modernize its services, while the bank would fund financial education programs in neighborhoods that had never had access to such resources before. The financial press couldn't get enough of the story. "Historic partnership redefines banking access," read one headline. Jasmine's phone rang constantly with interview requests. "This isn't just about business," she told a reporter from Financial Weekly. "This is about making sure everyone has the tools they need to build wealth, no matter what neighborhood they come from." Behind the scenes, the work was intense. Jasmine's team spent long hours training bank staff, redesigning forms to use simpler language, and creating new products that actually made sense for working families. Some of the older bank employees resisted the changes, but most were excited to see new customers coming through their doors. The partnership was such big news that National Trust decided to throw a formal reception at their historic downtown headquarters. They invited business leaders, community organizers, and even the mayor. Jasmine would be the guest of honor, with her picture hanging in the bank's grand lobby alongside portraits of the founders. The morning of the big reception, Jasmine met with community leaders in her old neighborhood to explain how the new partnership would benefit them. She dressed casually for the meeting: jeans, a simple blouse, and her favorite pair of comfortable flats. Her natural hair was pulled back in a neat bun. "Will people like us really be welcome at a fancy bank?" asked Mrs. Turner, who had run the neighborhood daycare for 30 years. "That's the whole point," Jasmine assured her. "This partnership means the bank works for everyone, not just people who already have money." After the meeting, Jasmine checked her watch. The reception wouldn't start for several hours, but she had an urgent problem to solve. One of her biggest clients needed to wire money for a business deal that couldn't wait until tomorrow. Since she was already downtown, she decided to stop by the main branch of National Trust Bank to handle it personally. "I can take care of this quickly and still have time to go home and change for the reception," she thought, pulling into the bank's parking garage. The grand marble building had stood in the heart of the financial district for generations. As Jasmine walked through the heavy brass doors, she noticed her own company's logo newly displayed alongside the bank's historic crest. She smiled to herself, feeling a moment of pride at how far she'd come. What she didn't realize was that inside those impressive walls, she was about to face the kind of discrimination she'd been fighting against her entire career. The inside of National Trust Bank was impressive, with tall marble columns and a ceiling painted with scenes from Greek mythology. Jasmine had been here many times for meetings, but today she was just a regular customer with an urgent need. The main floor buzzed with activity. Men in expensive suits and women with designer handbags waited in the special priority client area, while regular folks stood in lines for the tellers. Jasmine noticed a security guard watching her as she entered, his eyes following her movements a bit too closely. She glanced at the long regular line, then at her watch. The wire transfer deadline was approaching fast. Since she was a VIP client and partner of the bank, she walked confidently to the priority section. A young teller named Ryan looked up as she approached. "Good afternoon," he said with a practiced smile that faded slightly when he saw her casual clothes. "Hi there," Jasmine said warmly. "I need to make an urgent wire transfer for one of my clients." She placed her ID and account information on the counter. Ryan glanced at her ID, then back at Jasmine. This is the priority banking section," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Regular transactions are handled in the main line." "I understand," Jasmine said patiently. "I'm a priority client. I need to transfer $750,000 to close a business deal before the 3 p.m. cutoff. Ryan's eyes widened at the amount. Just one moment, please, he said, before hurrying to a desk in the corner where an older man in a charcoal suit sat looking at a computer screen. Jasmine watched as they whispered together, the older man glancing over at her several times. Finally, both men walked over. The name tag on the older man's lapel read Richard Phillips, branch manager. "Good afternoon," Phillips said with a tight smile. "I understand you're trying to make a large wire transfer." "Yes," Jasmine replied. "I have all the account details and identification right here." She slid her documents forward. Phillips barely glanced at them. "I see. And you're saying this is your account? The business premium account?" Something in his tone made Jasmine's stomach tighten. "Yes, it's my company's main operating account. We've had it for over 5 years." Phillips picked up her ID and studied it with exaggerated care. "And you're Jasmine Carter, the owner of this account?" "I'm the founder and CEO of Urban Wealth Financial Group, yes," Jasmine said, keeping her voice level despite the growing knot in her chest. The manager set her ID down and folded his arms. "Well, Ms. Carter, I'm afraid we can't process such a large transaction without proper verification. Bank policy." Jasmine took a deep breath. "I've provided my ID, account details, and security questions. What additional verification do you need?" Several customers in the priority section were now watching the interaction. An elderly white couple whispered to each other, their eyes darting between Jasmine and the manager. "Perhaps you should come back with your financial advisor," Phillips suggested, his voice dripping with condescension. "Someone who regularly handles these accounts." Heat rushed to Jasmine's face. "I am the financial advisor. This is my company's account." "Anyone can say that," Phillips replied with a dismissive wave. "We need to be extra careful with our high-value accounts. I'm sure you understand." A young woman in line behind Jasmine stepped forward. "Excuse me, but isn't that Jasmine Carter? I saw her picture in Business Monthly. She's giving a speech at my college next week." Phillips ignored the woman completely. "Perhaps you'd like to speak with a personal banker instead. Someone who can help clients like yourself with basic financial services." Jasmine felt as if she'd been slapped. The room seemed to go quiet, though people were still moving about. 20 years of fighting against exactly this kind of treatment, and here it was again, in the very bank that was supposed to be her partner. "Let me be perfectly clear," Jasmine said, her voice quiet but firm. "I am Jasmine Carter. This is my company's account. And I need to make this transfer now." Philip smirked. "Well, if you're really who you say you are, I'm sure you wouldn't mind waiting while we call someone who can actually verify your identity. It might take an hour or so." The deadline for the transfer was in 30 minutes. Jasmine knew exactly what was happening, and she wasn't going to let it stand. Not today. Not ever again. "I'd like to speak to your supervisor," she said, pulling out her phone. "Right now." By now, several people had stopped what they were doing to watch. The bank lobby grew quieter as customers and employees alike sensed the tension building between Jasmine and the branch manager. "I'd like to speak to your supervisor immediately," Jasmine repeated, her voice firm and clear. Philip smirked. "The regional director doesn't have time for walk-in complaints. If you'd like to file a formal request, I can give you a form." "I'm not a walk-in," Jasmine said. "And this isn't a complaint yet, but it will be if you don't get me someone who can approve this transaction in the next 5 minutes." A security guard began drifting closer to them. Jasmine noticed how he positioned himself near her, not the manager. Her heart raced, but she kept her expression calm. This was a familiar dance, being treated like a threat when she was the one being mistreated. "Ma'am, if you're going to cause a disturbance," Phillips began. "I'm not causing anything," Jasmine cut in. "I'm a customer trying to conduct business." She pulled out her business card and placed it on the counter. "Perhaps this will help you understand who you're speaking to." Phillips glanced at the card and pushed it aside. Anyone can have business cards printed. The young woman who had recognized Jasmine earlier gasped loudly. An older man in a golf shirt whispered to his wife, "Isn't that the woman from the posters? The one in the new bank ads?" Jasmine took out her phone. She'd tried being patient. She'd tried being professional. Now it was time for a different approach. "Let me make this simple for you," she said. She scrolled through her contacts and tapped a name. Putting the phone on speaker, she placed it on the counter between them. After 2 rings, a man's voice answered. "Thomas Harrington." "Tom, it's Jasmine Carter," she said, her eyes locked with Phillips, who suddenly looked less confident. "I'm at your downtown branch, and I'm having an issue with your manager who's refusing to service my company account. The same account that's part of our $50 million partnership agreement." There was a moment of silence. Then, "Jasmine? What? Who's the manager?" "His name tag says Richard Phillips," Jasmine replied. "Put him on right now," Harrington said, his voice sharp. The color drained from Phillips' face as he realized his mistake. He reached for the phone, but Jasmine kept it on speaker. "This is Phillips," he said, his voice suddenly higher. "Richard, do you know who Jasmine Carter is?" Harrington asked. I'm just following procedure for large transfers." "Answer my question," Harrington cut in. "Do you know who she is?" The lobby was completely silent now. Even the security guard had backed away, looking uncomfortable. "I believe she's with the new minority banking program," Phillips stammered. Jasmine raised an eyebrow. "Minority banking program? There is no such thing at National Trust. I'm the CEO of Urban Wealth Financial Group. Your partner. The one whose picture is literally hanging in your lobby right now." People in the bank turned to look at the new display near the entrance, a large photo showing Jasmine shaking hands with Thomas Harrington beneath a banner announcing their historic partnership. "Richard," Harrington's voice was ice cold through the speaker. "Give Ms. Carter whatever assistance she needs immediately. Then clear your calendar. I'll be there in 20 minutes. "Yes, sir," Phillips replied, sweat now visible on his forehead. "Jasmine, I'm deeply sorry," Harrington continued. "We'll make this right." "Thank you, Tom," she replied. "I'll see you soon." She ended the call. The bank erupted in whispers. A few customers even applauded quietly. The young teller, Ryan, looked mortified and kept muttering, "I'm so sorry," as he hurried to process her transaction. Phillips stood frozen, his career flashing before his eyes. "Ms. Carter, there's been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding," Jasmine said calmly. "You made a judgment about me based on how I look, not who I am. That's not a misunderstanding. That's discrimination." A middle-aged woman standing nearby nodded vigorously. "You tell him, honey." Phillips retreated to his office, nearly bumping into furniture as he backed away. Meanwhile, the assistant branch manager rushed over, apologizing profusely and personally escorting Jasmine to a private office to complete her transaction. As Jasmine followed her, she caught sight of her own portrait in the lobby. The irony wasn't lost on her. Denied service in a bank that was literally using her image to promote itself. The assistant branch manager, a woman named Linda, led Jasmine to a private office with glass walls. Inside, Linda typed furiously on the computer to process the wire transfer before the deadline. "Ms. Carter, I can't tell you how sorry I am," Linda said, glancing up from the screen. "I've worked here for 15 years, and I'm mortified." Jasmine watched the woman's fingers fly over the keyboard. "Have you seen this kind of thing happen before?" she asked quietly. Linda stopped typing for a moment. She looked at the door, then back at Jasmine. "More than I'd like to admit," she said finally. "Mr. Phillips has a pattern." "A pattern?" Jasmine repeated. Linda lowered her voice. "Last month, a black doctor came in to discuss a business loan. Phillips kept asking if he was really a doctor. The month before that, a Latina business owner wanted to open an account, and he insisted on speaking to her husband." "Have people complained?" Jasmine asked. "A few," Linda said, "but nothing ever happens. He's friends with some higher-ups, or at least he was until today." She gave Jasmine a small smile. "Your transfer is processing now. It'll make the deadline." "Thank you, Linda." As they finished the paperwork, bank employees kept finding reasons to walk past the office, stealing glances at Jasmine. Some looked embarrassed, others curious, a few seemed glad that Phillips had finally been caught. A young black teller even gave Jasmine a supple thumbs up as she walked by. Jasmine smiled back, thinking about how this woman probably dealt with people like Phillips every day. Meanwhile, Phillips had locked himself in his office. Through the glass walls, Jasmine could see him frantically making phone calls, likely trying to save his job before Thomas Harrington arrived. "Miss Carter?" A gentle voice broke her thoughts. Jasmine turned to see an older woman standing nervously at the door. "I'm Gloria from accounting. I just wanted to say, well, we're not all like Phillips." "I know that," Jasmine said kindly. "Some of us have been trying to change things from the inside," Gloria continued. "But it's hard when the people in charge don't listen." Other employees began gathering outside the office door. A young man in a neatly pressed suit stepped forward. "Ms. Carter, I'm Deb from Customer Relations. What happened to you today happens to people without your influence every single day. They don't get justice." Jasmine felt a lump in her throat. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about every person who'd ever been judged, dismissed, or denied service because of how they looked. "Your partnership with our bank," Gloria said, "we thought it might finally change things." "It will," Jasmine promised, "starting today." The bank's front doors swung open and Thomas Harrington strode in, flanked by two other executives. At 60, Harrington was tall with silver hair and the confident walk of someone used to being in charge. His face was flushed with anger as he scanned the lobby and spotted Jasmine through the glass walls. He walked straight to her, ignoring everyone else. "Jasmine, I came as soon as I could. This is absolutely unacceptable." The two executives with him introduced themselves as the head of human resources and the bank's diversity officer. The HR director, a stern-looking woman with glasses, immediately headed for Phillips' office. "We were just getting ready for the reception tonight," Harrington explained. "When you called, I couldn't believe what I was hearing." "Believe it," Jasmine said. "And from what I've learned, it's not the first time." Harrington's expression darkened. "What do you mean?" Before Jasmine could answer, Linda spoke up. "Mr. Harrington, Mr. Phillips has a history of treating customers differently based on their race or gender. Many of us have seen it, but complaints never go anywhere." Other employees nodded in agreement. Dev added, "Just last week, he told a black customer that certain investment options weren't appropriate for him. The man had over $1 million to invest." Harrington looked stunned. "Why wasn't I informed about this?" "Because," Gloria said quietly, "his monthly numbers are always good. And in banking, that's usually all that matters." The diversity officer, a younger man who had been taking notes, looked up. "Not anymore," he said firmly. "Not at National Trust." Harrington put a hand on Jasmine's shoulder. "Can we talk privately? I want to hear everything. And then, I promise you, we're going to take action." As they walked toward the conference room, Jasmine could feel the eyes of everyone in the bank following them. Something important was happening, and they all knew it. This wasn't just about one manager or one incident anymore. It was about changing an entire system. For almost an hour, Jasmine sat in the conference room with Harrington and the other executives. She told them everything that had happened, not just today, but throughout her career. She described what it felt like to be constantly underestimated, questioned, and dismissed. "This isn't about hurt feelings," she explained. "It's about people being denied opportunities, services, and basic respect because of what they look like." Harrington listened intently, his face growing more troubled with each example. "I thought we were better than this," he said finally. "I truly did." "Most companies think they're better than this," Jasmine replied. "But good intentions aren't enough if you don't back them up with action." The diversity officer, a man named Lewis, showed them data on his tablet. "Our internal complaints about discrimination have increased 40% in the last 2 years," he said, "but our response rate hasn't changed at all." The HR director returned to the conference room, her expression grim. "I've reviewed Mr. Phillips' file. There are 7 documented complaints from customers alleging discriminatory treatment over the past year alone. None were properly investigated." "Who handled these complaints?" Harrington demanded. "They were sent to regional management, but the regional director marked them as customer misunderstandings and closed the files," the HR director explained. Harrington's face turned red. "Get the regional director on the phone. Now." While they waited, Jasmine glanced out the glass walls of the conference room. The bank had mostly emptied of customers, but employees lingered, watching nervously. Phillips remained in his office, his head in his hands. "What do you want to do about tonight's reception?" Lewis asked. Should we cancel it? Jasmine thought for a moment. No. We need to use this moment, not hide from it. The phone on the conference table beeped, and a woman's voice came through the speaker. This is Regional Director Patel. I understand there's an issue at the downtown branch. There's more than an issue, Harrington said sharply. We have a pattern of ignored discrimination complaints and a branch manager who just denied service to our most important new partner. A partner who happens to be a black woman. Silence hung over the line for a moment. I'll need to review the situation, Director Patel said cautiously. The situation is that you ignored 7 formal complaints about Phillips' behavior, Harrington replied. The situation is that our partnership with Urban Wealth Financial, which your bonus depends on, by the way, was just put at risk because you didn't do your job. More silence. Then, I'll be there in 30 minutes. As Harrington ended the call, he turned to Jasmine. I need to address the staff. Will you join me? Jasmine nodded. Together, they walked out of the conference room and into the main lobby. Harrington asked all employees to gather around. The bank staff formed a nervous circle: tellers, loan officers, security guards, and administrative staff. Phillips stood at the edge of the group, looking like he might be sick. I want to speak to all of you about what happened here today, Harrington began, his voice ringing across the marble hall. Ms. Carter, one of our most valued partners and the CEO of Urban Wealth Financial Group, was treated disrespectfully and denied service because of what she looks like, not who she is. A few employees looked down at their shoes. Others nodded in sad recognition. This behavior violates everything our bank claims to stand for. It violates basic human decency. And it will not be tolerated, Harrington continued. He turned to Phillips. Richard Phillips, your employment with National Trust Bank is terminated effective immediately. Please collect your personal belongings and leave the premises. A collective gasp went through the room. Bank managers rarely faced consequences, especially not so swiftly and publicly. But I've been here for 12 years, Phillips protested weakly. It was just a misunderstanding. No, Harrington cut him off. It was discrimination, clear and simple, and it reflects a culture that we must change. Phillips looked around for support, but found none. Even his friends on the staff avoided his gaze. With his shoulders slumped, he walked to his office to collect his things, followed by security. To the rest of you, Harrington continued, this is a turning point for our institution. The partnership with Urban Wealth is about more than new services or expanded markets. It's about creating a bank that truly serves all people with dignity and respect. He turned to Jasmine. Ms. Carter, I can't undo what happened to you today, but I can promise you that it has opened our eyes, and we will do better. Jasmine stepped forward, addressing the staff directly. Today wasn't pleasant for me, but I'm in a position of power. I could make that phone call. Think about all the people who can't, who just walk away feeling humiliated, never to return. Those are the people we need to remember. The employees nodded, many with tears in their eyes. Something was shifting in the room. A recognition, a commitment, a beginning. As Phillips was escorted out the front door, carrying a box of his belongings, a new chapter was starting for National Trust Bank. 6 months had passed since that day at National Trust Bank. Jasmine stood in front of a crowd at the grand opening of the bank's newest branch in her old neighborhood. The building, once a rundown convenience store, now gleamed with fresh paint and modern design. When we cut this ribbon today, Jasmine told the gathered crowd, we're not just opening a bank. We're opening doors of opportunity that have been closed for too long. The crowd cheered as Jasmine and Thomas Harrington held the giant scissors together, slicing through the blue ribbon. Local families, business owners, and community leaders applauded. A group of children from the nearby elementary school waved handmade signs welcoming the bank to their neighborhood. Inside, the branch looked nothing like the intimidating marble palace downtown. The walls featured artwork from local artists. The furniture was comfortable and inviting. Most importantly, the staff reflected the community they served. Ms. Carter, you were right, Harrington said quietly as they walked through the new space. Banking isn't just about money, it's about trust. So much had changed since that confrontation 6 months ago. The story of what happened to Jasmine had made national news. At first, National Trust Bank executives wanted to handle everything quietly, but Jasmine insisted on transparency. Real change doesn't happen in the dark, she had told them. She agreed to give interviews about the incident on one condition, that the bank would implement meaningful changes, not just make empty promises. To her surprise, Harrington and the board had agreed to everything she proposed. First, they created a new independent review board for discrimination complaints. The board included community members and civil rights advocates, not just bank employees. Any complaint now received a thorough investigation and a public response. Second, the bank launched mandatory training for all staff. But this wasn't the usual boring videos that everyone ignored. Jasmine's company designed workshops where employees heard directly from people who had faced discrimination in banking and finance. "The training changed me," Linda, now promoted to branch manager, told a reporter. "I thought I understood these issues, but hearing real stories opened my eyes." The third and most significant change was a complete overhaul of the bank's lending practices. Data had revealed that loan approvals in minority neighborhoods were 40% lower than in white neighborhoods with identical financial profiles. National Trust committed to ending this disparity, setting concrete goals with regular public updates on their progress. The reception that was supposed to happen the day of the incident had transformed into something much more meaningful. Instead of a fancy party for business elites, it became the launch of a new financial education program bringing free workshops to schools, churches, and community centers. "My grandmother never had a bank account," an elderly woman told Jasmine after one workshop. She didn't trust banks, and for good reason. "But today, I opened an account for my granddaughter's college fund. Things are finally changing." Not everyone supported these changes. Some longtime bank customers moved their money elsewhere, complaining that National Trust had become too political. A few board members resigned in protest. But for every customer who left, 10 new ones opened accounts, drawn by the bank's new reputation for fairness and community investment. The regional director who had ignored the discrimination complaints was reassigned to a smaller role. She later admitted, "I was so focused on numbers that I forgot about people." As for Phillips, the manager who had denied Jasmine service, he struggled to find another position in banking. Eventually, he reached out to Jasmine, asking to meet. Over coffee, he apologized. "I never thought of myself as prejudiced," he said, "but that day showed me I had biases I never acknowledged." Jasmine didn't offer forgiveness easily. "Awareness is just the beginning," she told him. "What will you do with it?" To her surprise, Phillips had enrolled in diversity education courses and was volunteering at a community financial literacy program. "I can't change what I did," he said, "but I can help change the system that made me think it was acceptable." As the grand opening celebration continued around her, Jasmine watched a young black girl carefully fill out her first savings account application. The girl's mother stood nearby, proud and hopeful. This is real success, Jasmine thought. Not the fancy office or the magazine covers or even the multi-million-dollar partnership. This moment, watching barriers fall and doors open, this was why she had started her company in the first place. What had begun as a humiliating incident had transformed into something powerful. A catalyst for genuine change in an institution that touched countless lives.